Hello, my name is Jonathan Waters, and today we're going over a lesson geared for a grade 7 audience in which we'll be discussing the difference between rocks and minerals, the three classifications of rocks, and how they're formed. Rocks are simply combinations of minerals, and minerals are naturally occurring chemical materials. Minerals can be broken into two different categories depending on what they're made of. If they're made up of one element like carbon, they are called pure elements. An example of this is diamonds, which are completely carbon. The other classification of minerals is a compound mineral, in which there are more than one mineral making up the material. Granite is an example of this. So rocks are made up of minerals, which can either be pure or compound minerals. Rocks are then classified into three groups based upon how they're formed. The three types of rocks are igneous rocks, which are formed from molten rock, sedimentary, which are formed by compressed sediments, and metamorphic, which are rocks created under extreme heat and pressure. So let's dive into igneous rocks a little more. Igneous rocks are rocks that are created from the cooling of molten rock. There are two classifications of igneous rocks, and they're determined by where the molten rock cools and how fast it cools. Molten rock that is on top of the Earth's surface is referred to as lava. Lava cools very quickly, which doesn't allow for the formation of big crystals as it cools. Lava is responsible for creating what's referred to as extrusive rocks. Whereas molten rock that is beneath the surface is called magma. It cools much slower, and because of this, large crystals form and create what we call intrusive rocks. So some examples of igneous rocks that you might know or be aware of are obsidian. Obsidian is an extrusive rock, and it's very popular as a building material in the popular game Minecraft. You can see that on the left here. Lots of us have also seen granite countertops in upscale houses. Granite is a great example of an intrusive igneous rock, and you can see that on the right. The next type of rock we're covering are sedimentary rocks. These rocks are formed when layers of sediment, which is loose material like sand, rocks, plant, and animal material, are compacted together. So how does loose sediment become hardened rock? Over time, the weight of the layers upon themselves compact them into rocks, and this process is called compaction. Another way to create sedimentary rocks is through the process cementation. Cementation occurs when water dissolves minerals out of the rocks, and as the water dries, it creates a natural cement that binds the sediment together. Here we can see how compaction and cementation would work. On the left, you can see how the weight of the sediment compacts the layers below it, creating rocks. A great example of compaction is sand that turns into sandstone over a period of time and tremendous weight. Interestingly, our Parliament building in Edmonton is completely made out of Pescapoo sandstone. On the right, you can see an example of cementation. You can see the gaps between the sediment where the water dissolved with minerals can get into and solidify. Now, these layers of sediment tend to create visible bands in the rock that we can see with our naked eye. Now, I'd like you to pause the video for 30 seconds once I'm done instructing and follow through with the exercise. If you're watching with other people, please pair up and share with your partner possible examples of stratification you can think of. If you're alone, simply write down your answers. Hopefully you've come up with some great examples. I have 4 examples of my own. We can see stratification in everyday things that we use. For starters, we can see stratifications in the flavoring layers of a Slurpee that you might get at 7-Eleven. We can also see stratification layers in sand bottle art that you might buy from a store. We can also see stratification if we just look into our backyard. If you've ever been to Drumheller, chances are you've seen the hoodoos. We can see the bands of sediment layers that have been compacted together in these hoodoos. Now, we don't have to go all the way to Drumheller to see stratification. We can simply go to the river valley too. If you've ever been to the end of the world, which is a bit of an attraction for the Edmonton River Valley, you can see sedimentary layers in the soil and rocks around the end of the world. Now on to the final types of rocks. These rocks are called metamorphic rocks and are created when extreme heat and pressure change the original rock or parent rock. This happens below the Earth's surface and changes sedimentary rocks like sandstone into quartzite or igneous rocks like granite into gneiss. We're quickly going to use a 1-minute video to further help develop our understanding of how metamorphic rocks are created. It's important to note that if you need a transcript, It will be available for you in the description of the video.
Metamorphic comes from the word metamorphism, with morph meaning change in form. Metamorphic rocks are formed when earth movements cause rocks to be deeply buried or squeezed. As a result, the rocks are heated and put under great pressure. The rock does not melt, but they go through physical and/or chemical change. For example, new minerals will grow at different heat and pressure levels. Metamorphic rocks therefore form deep in the Earth's crust or around plate tectonic movement. This type of metamorphism is called regional metamorphism. Metamorphic rocks can also be formed when rocks come into contact or are close to a magma, and so get heated up. This is called contact metamorphism. The original rock that the metamorphic rock is formed from is called a protolith. Shale, a sedimentary rock, becomes slate. With increased metamorphism, it becomes schist, and then eventually gneiss. Sandstone, a sedimentary rock, becomes quartzite. Limestone, also a sedimentary rock, becomes marble. And that was metamorphic rocks in a minute.